All around us are people who've struggled and succeeded. Now they're changing their lives and the world around them in their own unique ways. Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies bring you these stories and more from the people who make things happen. This is Success Insight.
Good morning, everybody. This is Howard Fox, and I am one of the founders of the Success Insight podcast, and I'm very excited to introduce you to a gentleman that I've gotten to know past a couple years as we have been on the entrepreneurial business building journey. And this is a gentleman that helps people within the social media space, and I'm very excited to introduce to you and for you to learn more about Jonathan Christian, the founder of We Make Stuff Happen. Jonathan, welcome to Success Insight.
Oh my goodness, Mr. Howard Fox, the man, the myth, the legend.
Drum roll. Well, you're the legend too. Well, Jonathan, you know, when we met a couple of years ago and I learned more about you and the social media and your journey, because you help people with, you know, telling their story as to grow their business. And you've got a pretty fascinating story as well, how you got to where you are today. And, you know, in Success Insight, this show is about ultimately success, but the insight is something where along this journey, something happens, some events, a conversation, a hint, and all of a sudden the world changes. And no doubt in the work that you're doing, you know, people are affected by the work you do for them on their behalf. And so I'm curious, you know, before we talk about some of those stories, some of the insights that led you along this path. So maybe you can share a little bit about yourself.
I'd be honored to. My surname is Christian, as you said, and I was brought up in a very small island community off the UK called the Isle of Man, and my family history has been traced back to 1176. So by carrying
That's a
on...
long time.
It's quite a long time. Gotta love the churches for births, deaths, and marriages registers. So I carry a legacy of quite a hefty surname, and I was brought up in a third-generation family business. My grandfather started it. My dad took it over when my grandfather died, and then I took it over from my dad. Actually, not long after I left school. So I was always brought up in this service mindset. My grandfather was, you know, just very well respected in the community. He sold central heating oil and farm fuel. My dad took it over, super well respected in the community. And it was never because of them as entrepreneurs. It was them because of the type of men that they were, always willing to help people, always willing to go out of the way to make a solution happen. And that's how I was brought up. I had my own business when I was 16, met my wife, we got married, left the Isle of Man, moved to England because we just wanted to do more in life. Lived near London for about 7 years, moved again because we wanted to do more in life. Eventually ended up in Vancouver, Canada with 3 children because we wanted to do more in life. And when I say wanted to do more in life, I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help more people. Sure, I make money out of helping people more times than not, but that's not my real reason. Mm-hmm. The world's my stage. I mean, really is. The way the internet is today, I can do anything for anybody, anywhere. And I'm so excited about that. And,
that's the beauty of it.
It's fantastic. And Zoom and podcasts and just communication tools now are so easy to adapt that I get so excited every day that I have this global community that need my help, and I love it.
So how did you decide? So you had a career, you know, you were in the family business for a while. Then you mentioned you had a job in the, it's interesting when you say career, job, passion. Yes. There's differences between all three of those. The job you left in the Isle of Man, what was that before you moved to London?
Good question. So it was a family oil business. That was
the oil
business, yeah. And then that was bought out by a multinational oil company.
That's a good thing to happen.
That was a great thing to happen. And the goodwill of the business was basically me.
Okay.
And my father's name and everything that went with it. Certainly not oil tankers. They were not quite as good as theirs. But we had a family history, and we had a very, very big book of business, and that was a very loyal book of business. So that's how I joined. And as I say, I outgrew the Isle of Man. There wasn't a contract to be written that I hadn't written. So they moved me to their head office in London. And for 7 years, I served their company. And again, pretty much achieved everything I set out to achieve. I had the best results of any area manager in the company. And everybody kept saying, oh, he's got the best real estate. He's in the best area. He's just got it lucky. And it's like, I work my ass off, my friend. Can I say that? But I work my tail off. And,
that's very interesting. And that's a common mindset is when we see others being very successful, we often, not always, but we often compare ourselves to them. Well, I'm just as good as them, but the reason I'm not successful is because there's something unique about their territory, something they were given.
Yeah.
And we oftentimes don't step back and say, well, what is he doing? What can I learn from him about how she is doing his or her work? And what can I learn? How can I grow? And so this mindset, this building a goodwill, helping people, that is what helped make you successful. As you sold the firm, you went to London, and getting all those accolades. I mean, does this come natural? Is this a part of just upbringing? Is it just lessons learned?
I think it was. I mean, I think it's in my DNA. I genuinely do. I think entrepreneurs are born, not made. I mean, there's something in you that just gets you going that you can't necessarily give to somebody else. And I have that gift. I know I do. But what was interesting with the oil company was I stepped back because I didn't think I was doing anything different than anybody else, but certainly my numbers portrayed something dramatically different. And when we analyzed it, their staff turnover was massive. And they were constantly hiring, constantly training, constantly going backwards to go forwards. I hardly had any staff turnover at all. And over a 4 or 5 year period, the loyalty that I built out of my team was insanely high. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we kept winning, because we were a team and we were a long serving team. And I always said to people, I said, you know what? Nobody works for me, but a heck of a lot of people work with me. And that single philosophy has served me my whole life through.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And with that philosophy, those 7 years in London, you moved to Vancouver, another beautiful place. Yes. And what is the life now in Vancouver? What are you doing?
So life in Vancouver is phenomenal. I mean, I moved without a job. It was like burning the ships on the beach, and this was a move we were not taking lightly. And took me a while to get a job, to be honest. I didn't think it would, but it did. So I ended up going back into corporate, which is not something I really truthfully wanted to do. But I worked for a large department store. I became sales director. I had over 800 people working for me. Philosophy just kicked back in. Loved it. But what I didn't love was the 70 plus hours a week, working every weekend, and looking at my family. It's like, I moved continents to have a better life, and I'm back where I was. Right. So this has to change. So in 2004, gosh, show my age now, I called it a day on my corporate career and set up my own business, which was the Jonathan Christian Consultancy. And my tagline was making profits for nonprofits, because that was my passion.
The nonprofit space.
Absolutely. I loved it.
How did that passion, where did that come from?
Well, as beknownst to my name, a lot of people say, so are you? I went, what? A Christian? I went, funny enough, yeah, I am. But I'm not a very religious person. I'm very much a faith person. And I respect so many other people's faiths. But I had worked with an organization in the UK for the last 2 years that I left there that had an amalgamation of 16 churches fundraising to raise money to open up a high street store that was an ecumenical, sort of non-religious, safe place where people could go and have coffee and read a book. And it was something that I was very passionate about. And I led that project, and we opened it. And you know what? 19 years later, that business is still in business and is still profitable because of the model that I helped create. And I just could see from the success that I had with that one project, just how many nonprofits just didn't have the business savvy and experience that they really needed to survive in the world. They had the passion, but they didn't have the entrepreneurial savvy to go with that. So that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to help charities all over the place just make a difference. The reality of it is they're called nonprofits for a reason.
Of course, yes, yes.
And it wasn't too long, maybe a year, that I had another epiphany, which is like, okay, I'm helping a lot of people, but I'm not helping my family here.
Right.
So I had to shift my balance of for-profit and not-for-profit in our business mix.
And how did that shift start to occur?
Well, I was fully engaged with 3 different charities, and they were paying me what they could, and bless their hearts, but it was nowhere near what I could make. So I decided to dilute the mix. So I went down to 2 full-time charity gigs, full-time for them. And I took on 1 private client and then another private client. And before I knew it, I was at 7. And my balance was such that I wanted to give at least 10% of my time away. So at least 10% of our company time was serving charities. And I was getting
that's like tithing in a way.
That's tithing, but tithing with time, because I truthfully didn't have the money to give, but I had the time to give.
Sure, I understand.
To me, that was equally valuable. And we still do that to this day, actually. Even with I don't know how many clients we serve, hundreds, but there is still a mix of not-for-profit that nobody knows that get the same service as everybody else. They just don't necessarily pay at all, or if they do, they pay a very, very small stipend for.
Sure. And what? So now you've got this growing, budding business with the consulting, your work, having private clients, the nonprofits. What other shifts came into play that really, took you on this trajectory where you're at right now with We Make Stuff Happen? And I'm actually curious, and I hope you'll share with the audience, is where did We Make Stuff Happen come from? Because I actually love it. I love it. So how did you start to make stuff happen?
This story puts the hairs on my arms standing up every single time. 2008, the wonderful year of the Great Depression since the 1930s that we all sadly remember all too well.
Oh yes.
And it was a trifold year for me. My mother passed away, who was the matriarch of our family, and I had no idea how much influence she had in my life until she wasn't there. Most of our marketing business in 2008 dried up because a lot of people just decided they could save money, and that was the first place they should save money, despite me saying this is actually the place that you should spend your money.
Yes.
And just to add a double whammy to all that, I was badly rear-ended in a car accident at a red light, and disc in my neck was so badly herniated. I was in chronic pain, lost the use of my right arm through my tricep nerve, and I ended up, by the end of 2008, in a very, very dark hole. Very little business, if any at all, to be truthful. Lost the main influence in my life, which was my mom, in chronic pain. Truthfully, I was chewing OxyContin like M&Ms, and that was the only thing that was, and no hallucinogenic effects. Don't ask me how, but never tripped me out at all. It was just the only thing that nulled the pain. Tylenol T3s were okay, but Oxy was my jam, and terrible admission to say, but that's the only thing that was working. And a good friend of mine, Howard Olson, who I'd heard at a conference speak in Niagara Falls, he lived in Vancouver, we'd connected, just called me up one day and said, hey, I've got a 2-day workshop at the Vancouver Club. It's on high ticket sales development. Do you want to come? And he said, before you answer, I know things have not been good for you this year. This ticket's on me. So we sat in the Vancouver Club for 2 days, we brainstormed, and he said to me, of all the consultants that I've ever met, you're one of the few guys who's willing to take his jacket off, roll up his sleeves, and do stuff. He said, I think you're the guy that makes stuff happen. I went, I am. I've always said that life's about people and stuff, whatever this stuff is. If it has value and integrity, get the people part right, we can do this. So I went on GoDaddy, not a word of a lie, November 8th, 2018, WeMakeStuffHappen.com, $8.99, best money I ever spent.
No doubt about that. And so last week when, you and I keep in touch with each other through a variety of activities. And I remember last week Actually, before we go there, with the creation of We Make Stuff Happen, what, and you had the energy or the injury, you're recovering from it. What additional shifts occur between what you were doing pre-injury
Yes.
to post? Is there a shift there?
The huge shift was one person. His name was Neil Garden. And my daughter was in a very progressive high school, my eldest daughter. And in grade 11, they actually had an elective called entrepreneurship. So grades 11 through 12, they could actually do a class called entrepreneurship, which Gemma chose to do. And they were all assigned a business mentor from the local community. I didn't know this fellow at all. And I was looking at the emails that he and Gemma were exchanging on this event planning business that she had an idea to create. And I was amazed at his wisdom. So much so I wrote to him myself just to thank him for going out of his way to invest in my daughter, and that I'd love to meet him sometime. So we did. We met for tea. He was an incredible man. He could make a tea bag last 3 hours. Just kept adding hot water. But anyway, that was Neil. He knew how to save some money, but also he knew how to make a lot of money and come up with a lot of ideas. And he helped me at a very dark place, because he could see where I was at with my surgery that was coming up. He could see where I was at, really not with any clients, but he could also see that I was doing something different. And that was investing my time in learning a new skill, which was social media.
Right.
So I'd set up Facebook already. I just then went on to set up Twitter. I set up my YouTube account, my LinkedIn, which is pretty much the state of social media at the time. And he kept saying to me, "So how's that social media thing going?" I said, "Well, it's very interesting. Very interesting." I said, "You know what, Neil? I think this is the biggest shift in communication since the Roman roads." He said, "Do you don't think it's just a fad? It's not just for kids?" I said, "Absolutely not. I really do not believe that. I think this is it." And he said, "Well, I have an e-zine. It's called Marketing Dangerously. I write twice a week, goes out to about 3,500 people. I have a very high open rate. Maybe you'd like to write for me. Would you like to be a guest writer on social media? Become our social media expert." And this was early 2009, when most businesses didn't even have it in their mix, let alone were considering investing in it. So for the best part of a year, I was the Thursday columnist in Marketing Dangerously.
It's amazing the chance encounters we have. There's an old quote from Goethe that my own coach, when I was going through coach training, shared, and it dealt with, and I will share this on the podcast itself in a transcript, is when these seemingly insignificant events come together to conspire to make things happen. And once you recognize it and commit to that change, more and more things happen. So that, as your daughter's taking that, that event planning project, and hey, I got to meet this guy, and then that conversation leads to more conversations, which leads to opportunities, and that is how things happen. These seemingly insignificant events, and they just blossom.
They do. So Neil and I joined forces. We created a meetup on meetup.com, April 2010, and we called it the Social Media Challenge. And we set ourselves a challenge, and could a business grow using social media for 90 days? And we documented it every single day as a blog, and we ran this meetup on the premise of come and join us and see what we're up to, and see if this might help you too. There was no charge, and we had 24 people come to the first meetup. And I tell you, within 6 months, we had 60 or 70 people. We kept having to change venues because so many local businesses were super interested in this new tool called social media. And, was this the next best thing? And I became a circuit speaker in the local business community for BNIs and chambers of commerce and lunch and learns, and even churches were having me in to speak to women's groups about social media. And honestly, I so many clients, I can go back to one specific free talk that I gave for half an hour, wherever I was, about the power of storytelling in social media and how the world is just craving authenticity. And just be yourself, and business will come your way.
Oh, most definitely. And this picture that I had seen on that you had posted on Facebook, was that from one of those meetup groups?
It wasn't my meetup group. It was a local BNI, think it was.
Okay.
That was probably 7 years ago. It was one of those time hops where I my Facebook memory sort of takes you back to way back. And 24 people in a big circle in the back room of a restaurant, 7 in the morning, came to hear my 1-hour presentation on all they need to be doing with social media to be successful. And
Excellent.
yeah.
So if we jump forward to today, what is We Make Stuff Happen today? What are you doing today to make stuff happen for your clients? And then I'd love to get a story or two of, what have they been struggling with and how We Make Stuff Happen in your team. Because I know behind Jonathan
Yes,
Christian there's a huge team, including your lovely wife, is supporting you, or the firm, to also make stuff happen.
So what I found with social media was you start a great story, you start a connection, and then people go to find you online. So they might go to your LinkedIn profile or your Google My Business or your website, go figure. And the trail goes cold because there's nothing there, or what is there is not of substance. So we started to get into the website business of making websites that work, making websites that actually tell a story. So by the time people call you, they're not asking about your services, they're just asking about when you can start. Mm-hmm. That's the secret of a good website. And then I subcontracted a number of people, one of which was a lady called Lindsay Carlson, who's now our director of development and is a full-time staff member now, but was a contractor. And most of our team now were independent contractors who have just come together and we formed a company, and now we're a very viable 7-figure business with 6 full-time employees. We still have a number of amazing contractors who are very loyal to us. So we're really in the digital marketing space today.
So within the digital marketing space, so it's not just website development. What are the other components of the web
A lot of it is branding. I mean, we all need a personal brand these days to make a difference, because social media has become very crowded. So you have to stand out, and that's the quality of your pictures, your e-signature on your email, your business card, how you show up on your website. That has to have a consistent theme.
Definitely.
So we spend a lot of time in personal branding and creating those style guides. And then we also spend a lot of time in storytelling, really helping people get their story out there. So that 15-second elevator pitch, the 5-minute sort of bio talk, the 1-pager, the half an hour keynote, that 1-hour keynote. We spend a lot of time helping people be able to tell a story in such a way that it's not about them. It's about the solution that they provide and the problems that they fix, and the examples that they use through that are typically solutions that they've helped for other people. I very rarely say, look at me, look at me, look at me, because that's what other people do. And I hate it, to be truthful. And I use that word strongly because I really cannot stand these internet gurus who are dropping the keys to the Ferrari as they walk in the kitchen and, I just came back from Bora Bora. It's like, good for you, buddy. But, I'm in the business of helping people. I'm not in the business of you looking at me.
I think that's where, and perhaps this is just why, our interactions with each other, just being around is just total resonance. I totally appreciate that message and that sharing, and also the acknowledgement. I'm so happy to hear this, is the power of the story. And it's, you and I are not the heroes of this story. We're a guide, a mentor, so to speak. Our clients are the heroes. They've just run into a little bit of they've got an issue, a problem, or something needs to be solved, and they've discovered us, and it's our job to help guide them to come to that resolution. And what I would love if you could share, is there a story recently from one of your clients, a little bit, perhaps share about their struggle? How did they overcome the issue they were having through the work that the We Make Stuff Happen team?
Oh my goodness.
Sure.
So many, but I'll give you an example. And this is how it starts. One of my children was at a Christmas party. I went to pick her up. They were doing a movie night. The movie hadn't finished. I'm talking to the parents, didn't really know them. And the wife says, what is it that you do? So I explained to her, she said, oh my goodness, you need to meet my husband. Went to meet him. His name's Ken. He runs a kitchen cabinet company. He's a craftsman, beautiful working woodworker, and absolute introvert. You'll hardly see him on Facebook, very shy when he has his photograph taken, but he's a craftsman, Howard. And he took me, I met him at his shop. He showed me his work. He told me his biggest struggle was competing against the big box stores who can bring it all in from China, put it together. It looks good, but it doesn't last. He said, my stuff not only looks good, it lasts. And I struggled day in, day out, trying to show people, you know, why they should buy from me rather than somebody else. Because he said, I'm not the cheapest. But, you know, I have my own shop. I make everything by hand. And my stuff's great. So we started to work together, and we made a video of his process going right back 20 years, you know, since he left school and made his first table for his own apartment. His team, his wife, his 3 kids, how they all work together as a family to have this amazing kitchen cabinet company. And 6 years on, they are busier than ever. Their website traffic gets insane amount of local hits. He's number 1 in like the top 80 categories on Google for any keyword that you can think of. He's all over Pinterest. His Facebook page is rocking. His Instagram is rocking. He has a great set of videos. And he's still making the woodcraft that he loves to do. The company's called Elite Woodcraft.
Elite Woodcraft.
But we've been able to show him how to tell a story and bring other people around him, because it's not his gift to tell the story. His gift is the wood, but his passion for customer service and creation is unbelievable. And I look at their family now and where they're at, and I get such a sense of pride, because I helped a great man be seen for his greatness without being putting him on a stage or putting him in front of people. We just embraced his uniqueness and told the story, you know?
That's fantastic. And there are other tens of hundreds of other similar clients.
Literally, yeah.
Literally. What are some of the other so this gentleman was in woodworking. What are some of the other industries that you're also supporting?
Oh my goodness.
Does it really matter what you do?
Well, you know, yes, it does.
Okay.
There are certain industries I don't do.
Okay.
Typically truthfully around pornography and gambling.
Okay, well.
Other than that, which is
I get that
for most people.
Okay.
But my goodness, I mean, I'm just looking, we have all our clients on a wall, because I'm a post-it note kind of guy. So financial planning, local politics, a lawyer, a personal fitness trainer, a home brew center where they make homemade wine, plumber, a physiotherapist, a chiropractic, window manufacturer, notary.
You are a one-stop shop. Anybody, you know, you're also can be a, you know, Jonathan. Jonathan Christian, or we make stuff happen. Book of referrals. So if you need this,
that is so true. It's amazing how many of my clients end up working with another client because of the introductions that I see. Because I get to see the DNA of just what makes them tick, and I know the personalities that are going to gel, and I know the personalities that will not. And I'm quite a matchmaker. I've even got marriages out of We Make Stuff Happen.
Well, that's good to know. That's very good to know.
Not many, but you know, I can definitely tell you a couple.
Excellent. Listen, in the time we have left, and I would truly appreciate all the time you've given.
Yep.
I'm curious about a couple of things. One, I want to make sure when our listeners are listening to the podcast, they know the best way to find you, and also get involved with We Make Stuff Happen team. Mm-hmm. So let's kick that off first. So what's the best way to?
Well, as you just said, WeMakeStuffHappen.com is absolutely where you'll find us. But we also write a hashtag, and that hashtag is Make Stuff Happen. Mm-hmm. And that is pretty much on. All you have to do is go to any social media platform that you use and put in that hashtag. You'll find our work.
Okay,
so that's the 2 ways that we get in touch. And I am much more of a Facebook guy than any other platform. So just Google my name, jump in Facebook and find me, and that's where I'll be.
That's fantastic. And so I mean, and folks, whoever is listening to this podcast, you've got to check out Jonathan and his team and their great work they're doing. Jonathan, 2 more questions. So I kind of lied. There was 3 altogether. The next question is, if there's a budding entrepreneur, a budding business owner wants to get started, whatever it is they want to do, Is there some books or article that, for you of late has been a real game changer that you would recommend for someone
Yes.
to go out and read?
Yes. There's two amazing books. In fact, I can put my hands in them right now because they're on my desk.
Ah,
One is called They Ask, You Answer. And it's a great friend of mine. His name is Marcus Sheridan. He had a similar 2008 story with a swimming pool company in Virginia. And he went all out on helping his clients make the right decision when they were buying a swimming pool. And he has this, as I said, They Ask, You Answer philosophy. And it's a world game changer in the content marketing service that we all should be providing. So that's one I would surely recommend. The other one is a fellow that I know not terribly well. I know him very well through social media, but his name is Mark Schaefer.
mm-hmm.
And he has a book called Known that came out last year. And it's called The Handbook for Building and Unleashing Your Personal Brand in the Digital Age. And I talked a lot about that. We all need a personal brand. And Chris Ducker wrote a great book called A Youpreneur about it. Mark wrote Known. I've immersed myself in those two books this last year and really, really working on my own personal brand, but also our clients. But it still comes back to Marcus's book too, like They Ask, You Answer. There's nothing I won't do to help somebody, whether I get paid or not.
Excellent.
And that's the secret, is to keep paying it forward, and it will pay back.
That philosophy, I'm full on board with that philosophy. What's next for We Make Stuff Happen?
Well, I'm trying to work myself out of a job in the best sense, because what I do best, Howard, is motivate and inspire and create stories and take people to a whole new level. And I can do that from a big stage or in a small room or one-on-one. And I have not had enough time to do that because we've been growing the business. Mm-hmm. Now we're at a point that there is not one task that happens within Make Stuff Happen that somebody else isn't doing instead of me, and probably in many ways better than me. So it's released me to get a lot more opportunity to go out and speak, to go out and work with our clients, in their workplace, and really look at what's going on and help them create story from what I see. And that's where we're going. So I travel several times a month now with my wife, which we just love. Way on our way to becoming million milers with Alaskan Airlines, bless their hearts. And that's where we're going.
Excellent. Well, Jonathan, I truly appreciate you, taking part out of your day to join us here on Success Insight. And, I will say it to the public, I truly value our friendship and just being able to get to know you over the past couple of years, and just we'll continue to on our path of friendship, and just the your willingness to kind of contribute, who you are, what We Make Stuff Happen is, and on this Success Insight podcast.
Howard, thank you. And to pay it back too, you have helped me no end of times. I mean, there was an event, if you recall, that I really wanted to go to, and I wasn't quite sure, and I'd missed the deadline for the room block, and I was going to pay a ridiculous amount of money to stay in a hotel somewhere else, and I was mad at myself. And you went, "Hey, I'm already going. I have a double room. Come and share it." We didn't even really know each other that well, and you just extended it. You had your Hilton honors. You gave me free breakfast every day. I mean, it's the kind of guy you are. And when I've had some clients of late really struggle with their LinkedIn, and truthfully, I know how to do it, but I just couldn't give myself the opportunity to help them in that one field, because I believe everybody should just have a depth of expertise of one field and major on that. I picked up the phone and said, "Howard, I have some people that really need your help. Is there any way you could squeeze me in some time, like fast? Because these people had just left corporate. They were trying to get onto the entrepreneurial journey. You jumped right in, and boy, did you make a difference." And I got to thank you for that.
Well, it's my pleasure, and anytime. I mean, you know that.
So, I got you on speed dial, my friend.
Excellent. So, Jonathan, there you have it, folks. This is Howard Fox from Success Insight. So glad you were able to meet Jonathan Christian, the founder of We Make Stuff Happen. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there and have a phenomenal day, and we'll see you again next time on Success Insight Podcast.
Six Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies.